A Super Talk Mississippi media production.
Looking for your next getaway? Come experience Laurel, the city beautiful. From amazing local restaurants and unique shops to historic charm and fun attractions, Laurel has something for everyone. Plan your visit today at laurelms.com and discover why Laurel is worth the trip.
MidDays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. MidDays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C Spire. Power your home or business with C Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C Spire. C Spire Fiber powers Supertalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. Hello. You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on Super Talk Mississippi.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Midday Super Talk Mississippi. I'm your host, Gerard Gibert, along with Rhino in the Element Wealth Studio, guiding you through the middle of your day with facts, fodder, and fine music. Morning there, Rhino.
Howdy, howdy.
What in the wide world of sports is going on today?
Well, it looks like it's a little cloudy out there today, and I am not going to complain because it's keeping the sun from baking us.
Yeah.
At least partially.
And we have been. In fact, a little stormy weather, perhaps, expected to sweep through the Magnolia State today. Cool things off a bit. Huh. That's good. Well, sometimes you get teased a bit in this time of the year in August because fall is right around the corner, but I saw a report, I'm sure you saw it as well, from the National Weather Service, which is predicting that it's going to remain hot across the southern United States for a while, expected to continue. So,
yeah, but their definition of hot and our definition of hot are a little bit different.
That's true. That is true.
Like if the high starts with an 8, we'll take it.
Exactly.
Considering the highs for the last few weeks have been in the 90s and triple digits.
Yeah. Well, we're all buckled up, ready to go at 10:20 in the next segment. We've got Mike McCormick. He's the president of Mississippi Farm Bureau. That's the building where we are located here, Super Talk Mississippi, Mississippi Farm Bureau's Federation's headquarters building. And he's going to come on and talk about the tariffs, the announcement by the president late last week that tariffs on ground beef products would be paused for 90 days, and there's significant concern by the farmers in Mississippi, the cattle farmers, and across the country of how this might affect their current business and situation. So we're going to talk to Mike McClendon about that. Mike McCormick, Mike McClendon. We got two Michaels on today, Rhino. Michael McClendon, Mississippi State Senator, joins Middays at 11:05. We'll get an update from his district, and he's also proposing some legislation concerning the Muslim population and the Sharia law, and what he would like to see done in the state of Mississippi from a legislative perspective. The world of college football has absolutely been turned on its head, has it not? Former Ole Miss Cleveland Browns tight end Daquan Wright, he's going to LSU.
Supposedly.
Yeah. He is believed to be the first player who could play for an NFL team and then return to college football. We got an article at Super Talk FM about that. That's bizarre. So it's not confirmed yet that he's going, or?
Well, there is, if I'm not mistaken, there's an SEC rule against it.
No, an SEC rule, a conference rule, not an NCAA rule. Okay.
But not necessarily against the coming back from the NFL. I think it's against intra-conference transfers
Okay.
after a certain date. And I believe that date has passed. So if he were to return to college, he would not be allowed to transfer to a new university to play.
That's so bizarre.
According to the SEC rules.
That is just crazy. So bizarre. So, you know, there's a lot of folks in the country that have expressed their concerns about how data centers are affecting their communities. But in Vermont, there's a resort town in Vermont, Stowe, S-T-O-W-E, Vermont. They're not worried about data centers. They're worried about bears. They are being overrun by bears. So here's a quote from one of the residents. I look to my left, and there's this bear that's less than 8 feet away. This is from Lewis May, a 75-year-old gastroenterologist from New York City. He's looking at me, and I'm looking at him, and I scream, "Holy!" He can't say what he said after that. His wife, Suzanne, sat up in bed, called 911, grabbed her bathrobe, bolted out of the house, leaving her husband in there fumbling around for clothing. He yelled, "Why didn't you wait for me?" And she said, "Every man for himself, pal." It's so good. So it's an invasion of bears in Stowe, Vermont. By the time the police showed up in SUVs, the juvenile bear was gone. Yogi, as Dr. May calls him, had climbed back out the window through which he had entered. He hasn't been seen since. Oh, my gosh. They say they're getting increasingly common in Vermont, where the black bear population has surged over the past 8 years. The Department of Wildlife, Fish and Wildlife, as it is labeled in Vermont, said the last time we had figures available, that's 2025, last year, an estimated 7,500 to 8,900 bears roaming around a very small state, the state of Vermont, roughly double the target population. Wow. So they have encountered lots of humans as part of the explosion of the population. And, of course, the big thing is, Rhino, is they find the trash. So they got the big dumpsters, and they're requiring the dumpsters to padlock them so they don't open and start rummaging. Oh, this is great. So a bunch of bears. Well, we have a bunch in Mississippi as well, right? And black bears are common.
Well, it depends on who you ask as to whether or not they would say it's a bunch.
Okay.
I think the conservationists would still like to see the population grow. I think people that spot them would say there's one too many.
I got you. That's probably right. So this is great. I'm looking at a photo of a kitchen in a home where a bear got in and just ravaged the whole thing. Just all the food out of the refrigerator and the cabinets just off the counters on the floor, right? These bears. Last year, hunters killed 1,022 bears in Vermont. That's a record. Another 116 were fatally struck by vehicles. Wow. You know what kind of damage a deer can do to a vehicle? That's common, a deer strike. I personally have had 2. What the heck does a bear do to a vehicle? Oh, man.
More than a deer, less than a moose.
That's probably right. Some have learned to swipe the bird feeders and raid the chicken coops, open car doors. Well, of course. They're pretty smart, pretty self-sufficient. Man, just had to share that with you today. You know, I didn't even get to it Friday, and I apologize for that. But while I was out Thursday, you guys let the debt eclipse $40 trillion. No end in sight. I just don't see it. And what does this mean for you? Well, the bond markets are already telling you what it means for you because they are demanding higher interest rates for investing in government bonds, particularly the longer term, 10-year and 30-year. They want more money to park their money at a fixed rate for a long time because they anticipate the dollar will be worth less in the future due to inflation. So I know a lot of people say, well, gee, this is placing this debt burden on the taxpayers. And that's true, but it actually misses who truly bears the burden. Your taxes aren't going up because of the debt. As far as the amount of money you send to the IRS, what goes up is the stuff you buy and the cost to finance stuff you buy, such as a house, a vehicle, or another major purchase. And then businesses borrow money all the time, and they pay higher interest rates. This is all driven by the investors' concern about our debt. They want higher interest on the debt they buy from the government. That props up interest on everything else. Bottom line is cost of stuff goes up. It drives inflation. So who bears the price, or the expense burden of this? Everybody that buys anything, and that's everybody. We're stepping aside for a break. It's Mike McCormick with Mississippi Farm Bureau next.
Now back to Middays with Gerard here on Super Talk Mississippi.
Mamas, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys. Don't let them pick guitars or drive them old trucks. Let them be doctors and lawyers and such. Mamas, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Well studio. Our next guest, Mike McCormick, president of the Mississippi Farm Bureau Federation. He requested that bumper song there on the all-hit request line, and Rhino obliged. Appreciate that. Mike, thanks for coming in. Good to see you.
Hey, thanks for having me this morning.
So the big thing in your industry, certainly among the cattle farmers, is the president's announcement last week to pause tariffs on imported ground beef. And says that there's an agreement that the beef imported, I don't exactly know how that flows all the way down to the retailer, Mike. Maybe you can explain that to us. Would be sold at 25% less, right, than kind of the standard market price. That's not been received too well by the cattle farming community. You shared something with me yesterday, so I'm glad it worked out. We could get you on. Tell us about this and what the concerns are.
Well, I can't explain to you exactly how he's going to get that beef 25% cheaper to the retailers and through the hamburger chains. No one knows. Okay. And no one knows where this 300,000 metric tons of beef is sitting. I've not talked to an economist or a livestock person that believes that it's that much beef out there that can be accessed. But the president sure said it. And if he said it, what he did was he wrecked the futures market on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange for no good reason on Friday, because the calves that are marketed through CME, they're live cattle contracts, which means that's a yearling going into a packing facility, or either it's a feeder calf that will go through the process of being fed out, a 750-pound steer in Oklahoma City. Neither one of those animals are destined to be hamburger meat for the most part. They're going to be your high-end steaks that you like so much at your favorite restaurant on your grill in your backyard. The hamburger meat comes from the cows that we cull out of our herds that go off to be grounded up in hamburger meat. So theoretically, the market should not have moved at all, but it did because of the intentional impact that the president put on the markets on Friday, and it's just so disappointing. Let me say, before I say too much anymore, I need to make some disclosures. Number one, I voted for Trump every time he's been on the ballot. So I'm not here as a whatever to bash the president and his decisions. I just think it was ill-informed and short-sighted of what he did last Friday. I don't think that anybody else beyond him can be blamed for this decision. I know that there's a lot of Republicans up for re-election in ag states and cattle states that are in trouble this morning. Social media has blown up. The president miscalculated that the cattle people that had voted for him and put him in office for the last 2 times he was there would keep their mouths shut and say, it's okay. You tell us that you love us, but you're not showing us that you love us. You intentionally harmed the cattle markets for everybody selling cattle in the markets. Most cattle have 1 calf a year, and most cattle producers control breeds. So all of those cattle come at one particular time or the other. Most of them come in the fall. So right now we're in the highest peak of cattle in the next few weeks to be marketed all year long. And that statement that he made on Friday, and I think he wasn't aware of it, but certainly the meat packers, and I'll call them the meat cartel moving forward, was aware of it. And how that money is going to flow through from the U.S. government somewhere to some foreign nation or some foreign cattle producer or some foreign whatever, back to the meat packers and then on to a convenience store, a restaurant, a buying point for it for wherever. No one knows. No one knows what he did. But the impact of what he said on Friday was extremely harmful to the future of the cattle business in the United States. And I can go through the points of why that is. So this is not the way to get our beef problem fixed. The way to get the beef problem fixed is get the farmers in the United States to grow their herds. And what he did on Friday tells me that the president thinks that I, as a cattle producer, should not make any money. I should grow these things without making any profit off of it. I haven't heard him mention any other commodities. I haven't heard him talk about oil and gas and how diesel fuel is impacting all of this. He just woke up Friday and decided to take a punch to the face of the beef cattle producers in the United States. And somebody's got to step up and say, this wasn't right, and I'll be the one to do it.
Mike, explain the situation with the 300,000 pounds. Is it 300,000 or 300 million?
300,000 metric tons.
Metric tons, pardon me. That's the difference. It's tons. Okay. So they're the current tariff structure. Mm-hmm. You have like a quota. Is it not subject to tariffs? And once you exceed that, everything over that is then subject to it? That sort of limits the amount that gets imported? Explain that.
I'm not sure how that works. I assumed all of it.
How do they figure that out?
I would assume all of it is tariff related. I mean, he puts tariffs on everything that I sell and everything that comes into the United States. I would hope if we're taking beef from other countries that we're putting tariffs on it. It levels the playing field, and that's all I think the beef producers are asking. It's not that we don't want imported meat coming in. It's coming in at a record pace. Year over year, importation of beef is increasing at rapid rates. But for some reason, the packers have decided to get in the president's ear and tell him that we need a massive shock to the system to get beef prices down. And all they're going to do, and full disclosure again, I'm selling calves this week. My whole entire year's worth of work is going on a truck and leaving my farm Friday. And I'm going to take the full brunt of what he said last Friday out of my checking account that I live on for the next year. What he said is we're only going to do this for 3 months and everything's going to go back the other way. But you remember when I told you everything is getting marketed over the next 3 months. So who is going to own that beef after 3 months that's $200 a head or more cheaper than it was a week ago? The meat cartel's going to own it. The packers are going to own it. They're going to line their pockets with the profits off of what the president said last Friday. It doesn't just impact beef producers for 3 months. It impacts us for the whole year of our production. And it's just sad that we did it. The meat packers knew exactly what they were doing. They brought this out in the time that the farmers were the most vulnerable. We can't keep those calves. They got to go somewhere else. They got to leave the farm so that cow can take a little rest and break before she has the next calf going into next year. So they have to leave. And so you make a statement, you get the president to make a statement like that to create massive shockwaves for no good reason And again, the calf prices that are suffering today have nothing to do with hamburger meat prices in the grocery store. That's a whole different deal. The hamburger meat shows up in the grocery stores from the cows that I cull. That's all they're good for. You grind them up in hamburger and they make hamburger meat. Well, I can understand if the prices that I pay are getting from my cull cows today goes to half because the president wants to influence the market so much he wants to drop those prices by, he says 25%, but the numbers I'm getting are much higher from cash sales. I could take the fact that he wants to crash my cull cows and get the hamburger prices down. That does even very little to affect what actually shows up at your hamburger chain or your grocery stores, because you've got to factor in so many other factors, from the plastic spoons that's got tariffs on it all the way through the process to labor shortages and the amount of money that these chains are having to pay for employees. And don't talk about the diesel. The diesel I just passed down the streets, $5.29 a gallon. And everything that touches a cow runs on diesel, and it does from the time that they're born to the time that it goes on the plate at wherever the retail point is. That's the problem, is the farmers are so stressed with the amount of inputs that we have going into our operations, we can't afford to take much less for them. And the president used his fingers and said it's just going to be a little bit. But it wasn't a little bit last week, and it's not going to be a little bit for every one of the farmers that I know that's marketing cattle across this United States this next week. And I can tell you, the farmers are angry. They are very angry at what the president did. He could have done this without making a statement. It wouldn't have rattled the markets. He could have just brought more beef in. He could brought it in with tariffs. Don't make me play on an unlevel playing field to where I've got to pay a tariff on everything I buy and everything that I sell. Just let them pay the tariffs. But no one knows how the economics of you going to somewhere else on the planet and buying 300,000 metric tons of beef and dumping them on the market here in the United States with the intentions of crashing the market works, because no one knows where this beef is. There's a beef shortage everywhere on the planet, not just here in the United States. So why would you go to, let's just say it's coming from Argentina, and that's where most people believe it is going to come from, and they're dying down there. Why would you take their meat away from them to eat if you're going to try to help them? They need to eat their own beef.
Let's keep talking about it. We got a break right here. We got Mike McCormick. He's the president of the Mississippi Farm Bureau Federation in the Element Wealth studio. We're coming right back.
From the Seabrook.
You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert, here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
We're back with you in the Element Wealth studio. We've got Mike McCormick. He is president of the Mississippi Farm Bureau Federation. So, Mike, is there a difference between just the quality of the cattle that's coming from abroad and that which is raised here domestically in the United States?
Absolutely.
Do we follow higher standards and then produce just higher quality beef as a result?
Absolutely. Our producers have been working on improving our cow herds for decades upon decades, and we've got the best beef, the safest beef on the planet being grown right here in the United States. Whenever a yearling is being processed at a packing facility, there's a USDA inspector watching that cow leave the truck or calf, leave that truck all the way through the processing part of it with blue stamps on it that it was inspected all the way to the box before it leaves to go to the buying point. No one else does anything like that. As a matter of fact, the president has brought in beef from Argentina before. We've been through this before. We've had loads of that beef rejected and we're having to be sent back to Argentina. I happen to sit on the safety committee for the Cattlemen's Beef Board for 6 years, and we invested millions and millions and millions of dollars of producers' money, checkoff money, to pay to make sure we have the safest beef on the planet, because we know whenever you have bumps in the road, it kills demand whenever somebody hears that it's salmonella or something bad like this Mexican lettuce that had the parasites in it. Nobody wants to eat anything like that, and we don't want that stuff here in the United States. It failed. We know it failed inspection here in the United States once, and we're going to go back and get 300,000 metric tons of it. Listen, it failed inspection in China already one time this year. Early in March, a load of Argentine beef went to China, and they detected a banned antibiotic in it that's been banned since 1995 with known health risks to humans that are in it. So I hope your listeners know that there is no inspection at the ports of entry when this stuff comes in that's going to be enough to test all of this 300,000 metric tons of beef that the president's getting from somewhere else. He told you it's safe, and you don't know what in it. It's a mystery company selling mystery meat to feed the people of the United States. And listen to this. The federal government won't even require those packers to have a mandatory country of origin labeling on the packaging where you know it can come from.
Well, I was going to ask you
that fact.
Because the Commissioner Andy Gibson, our ag commissioner, he's encouraging people to buy American-produced beef. But I was in the store yesterday. I don't see any labels on the meat.
We're not allowed to do that. The federal government pitched a towel in when Mexico and Canada said that they don't want that because it hurts their ability to sell meat into the United States, and the packers hate it because they can't get the cheap cuts of meat from wherever and mix it in with my good stuff to be able to be sold. So I know there's a huge MAHA movement in the United States, and it's here in the state of Mississippi. And I ask you guys, where are you? Get on social media. You can't possibly think that this stuff is healthy and that somebody is watching over it before it comes to your dinner plate. And I can't even tell those packers that you put that this calf was born, raised, and processed here in the United States off of a farm in Mississippi, so you know about it. So when it goes to a buying point, it's mixed up with some of my stuff, some of their stuff, and it is no telling what came from that packing plant in Argentina or wherever else that it came from, whatever crawled across the packing floor that day. It's not like you're in the United States, and I don't care what the president said. It's not as safe as ours. It's not as clean as ours. And if he wanted to do something to help, say, okay, we're going to bring this 300,000 metric tons in, but I'm going to make them stick a label on every bit of it that said it came from Argentina to help our United States cattlemen know that they can sell a higher quality product, and the people that want to buy it, that can afford to buy it, can buy it. Look, nobody likes the price of beef in the grocery store. I'm not here to promote that it's not too high, but there's a lot of other factors that walk into that than the raw product, the calf that walks out of my farm gate to be processed. You've got all the things that we talked about, and diesel and gas are the main drivers of that up the supply chain. Plus, you've got a cartel of 4 meat packers, 2 of them foreign owned. 2 of our 4 meat packers that process 85% of our beef are foreign owned. I would consider one definitely an adversary and the other one probably an adversary to control this meat market. And they can do with it whatever they want to do. But since they want to buy this cheap stuff and sell it to you, they have lobbied our president and Congress to keep mandatory of country of origin labeling off the requirements for us to sell beef. It was in the Farm Bill that just passed the Senate, but we don't have any hopes, see much hope of that.
Mike,
getting over the finish line.
Have you spoken to our delegation, Senator Hyde Smith, of course, is a cattle farmer, and I know that you have a relationship with Secretary of the Agriculture, Brooke Rollins. Have you spoken to them about this?
Look, Secretary Rollins is a champion for agriculture. She's been here in this office. I have texted with her. She is going to do the best she can do with the situation that we're under. I think she completely understands it. But she has a boss, and she has to answer to that boss, and we'll see if she makes any headway. As far as Senator Hyde Smith, everybody knows she's in the cattle business. She understands this. She's not like the economist in the White House that the president has that has no complete understanding of what they said and what it did to the cow market last Friday. Senator Hyde Smith knows, and she has been time and time and time again to the White House to tell them what the fix to this problem is, and it is supporting American cattle producers to expand our herd. You don't do something like this and expect us to expand our herd. Let me do some quick math for you. I'm going to sell, let's just say I have 100 cows on my place, and I'm going to sell 100 calves Friday. I've got to have 10% of those calves held back as replacement heifers. That's how you build herds. You don't buy a cow from somebody else. That just keeps it normal, steady. You got to keep or buy a replacement heifer to keep it from going to a packing plant. I need 10% of those calves to come back in my herd to keep my herd at a zero gain or zero loss. 10 calves out of that group. I was planning on picking those 10 calves up. But because of what the president did last week, it's going to take an additional probably $200 a head out of that calf that I was expecting to get to go in my bank account. So now instead of me being able to afford to keep 10 calves, I can only keep 3 because the other 7 has to go back and bail off the hole for the steers that I was sending off that they didn't make because of the president's comment on Friday. So that calf takes 3 years before it has a calf and it gets in the market. You're not going to see any of that happen and realize, well, maybe why aren't we rebuilding the herd? We're doing everything we can to help them. That one comment on Friday has sent everything reeling, and I can tell you, I'm not keeping 10% of my calves, and I'm as addicted to the cow business as anybody on the planet. My herd will retract because I've got to have that extra money. Unless the president can get on the telephone this week and tell these packers, stop treating Mike like that, make your buyers go back in and give him a fair price for what these calves are bringing, I can keep my calves. But as of Friday, if I'm losing $200 a head off of what I should be getting, those calves are going to a feed yard. They will help immediately reduce some pressure on meat prices. But 3 years from now, we're just encouraging our beef, our food products to be grown overseas. And I can tell you, Gerard, a nation that cannot feed itself cannot defend itself. We can't go to war with anybody on a hungry belly. We've got to be able to feed these people right here in the United States, and our president shouldn't expect the cattle people here in the United States to do that for free. We've got to make a profit to stay in business.
So, Mike, Ag Commissioner Andy Gibson has suggested tax credits for heifer retention. Has he discussed any details with you, and would that help?
No, it would help. I haven't talked to Commissioner Gibson about it, but the president announced some things that would help rebuild the cattle herd. They were grasping at straws. All of that is for somebody in the far west where they are opening up BLM land and trying to open up some CRP to let people graze that out there so they can have some more capacity. But the West is dealing with ongoing drought, and it doesn't look like that's going to let up. So where he needs to focus his attention on building the cow herd is in the Southeast. And if you could do something like that for the Southeast, something that help us rebuild fences on some of these old places, something that would incentivize a farmer to keep those calves, I think it would be a good thing, because right now they're so very high, and none of us believe that the packers are going to let us maintain this profitability. And now we got to wake up in the morning to see what the president says every day for him to cause more grief in the marketplace. There's no way that there is a sentiment through the cattle country that we want to grow this herd because of the factors that we're talking about.
Got it. Mike, appreciate you coming in, man.
Yes,
Thanks
sir.
a lot. Mike
we're going to
McCormick.
keep fighting. It's going to get better.
Yes, sir. Hear you. Mike McCormick, president of Mississippi Farm Bureau Federation, has been our guest in the Element Well studio. We're coming right back.
for all your glass.
You're listening to Middays with Gerard here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
It's getting near dawn. When lights close the tired eyes, I'll soon be with you, my love. Give you my
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays. We appreciate Mike McCormick for coming in the Element Wealth studio. Short walk down the hall for Mike Rhino in the Mississippi Farm Bureau Federation building. So this whole tariff thing with respect to ground beef, and I think the president's goal was to drive prices down before the midterms. But this action has not been obviously received well by cattle farmers in this country, and you wonder if that affects certain key races, Senate races in particular, in Texas, for example, where obviously there are a lot of cattle farmers, and that is currently rated as a toss-up. We went through that race last week, the various polls out there that features Democrat James Tallarico and Republican Ken Paxton. Tallarico is a person that certainly on this program we've been worried about, and here's why. His ideas, his positions, policies he supports, his cultural values are freaking wacko. I mean, he's way out there. He just doesn't look like it. He's unusual in that respect, and he doesn't present that way. He's a good speaker. You have to give him credit for that. He's just on the wrong side of every issue, in my opinion. But people vote emotion, largely. And he is kind of mesmerizing, captivating voters across Texas. And it is now in the toss-up category. It doesn't help that Attorney General of Texas, Ken Paxton, has a long, extensive list of baggage. And that is a concern. Independents determine the outcomes of elections these days in many states. I think Texas is one of those, and now more people consider themselves not affiliated, not in support of any party, but rather in the squishy middle as an independent. Georgia is now leaning Democrat. North Carolina, another hotly contested Senate race that I think will go in the Democrats' favor just because you got Roy Cooper, former governor, who's very popular. Georgia, leaning Democrat, and then New Hampshire, also leaning Democrat. Iowa is one to keep an eye on, and most recently now, Alaska, having had their primaries a couple of weeks ago. There's a strong possibility, it is thought by pollsters, that Mary Peltola, the Democrat nominee for Senate, had an extremely strong showing. It's in a nonpartisan primary, by the way, in Alaska. That's how it works. And then the top two, if no one gets 50 plus 1, advance to the general. And it is graded as a 50-50 toss-up, that according to Douglas High, a Republican strategist. Republicans are nervous, he says. They've watched Trump's numbers be a constant limbo contest of, quote, how low can they go? So you got to think that this action with respect to beef could figure in, that farmers are pretty upset about this. And that's a big constituency, of course, for the president. And you heard Mike McCormick say that Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins has spoken to the president, tried to talk him out of this, as did our Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith, expressing concerns of how this would affect Mississippi's and, of course, the nation's cattle farmer. But the president still pushed forward with the policy. Wouldn't be surprising, honestly, now that he's at in conflict at fairly strong odds with his Ag Secretary, Brooke Rollins. Wouldn't be surprising to see her no longer the Ag Secretary here in the near future. Just an opinion. That's what we do here, offer an opinion. So Jason in Starkville said, that's why I only do ground deer meat. Other beef is steak, and that's stupid high now. He says he had puts on it. That's why he did this action. Oh, let's see here. Go on and say it. It's because he's Jewish. Who's he talking about there, Rhino? I don't know what you're talking about. Let us know. That's on the C Spire text line. Randy in Starkville, can groceries and meat markets label the meat as USA grown? I know the processors cannot. If the processors can't, then how would the retailers know? That's the question. So somebody said that John in Pontotoc says it's marked differently. So my experience, John, and I checked this out over the weekend after this announcement and after Mike contacted me about coming on to talk about these concerns, I was in the grocery store. I don't see any labels on beef products, Rhino. I know that we passed a law here in Mississippi, right, with respect to seafood, but I don't see anything on beef. And according to Mike, the processors aren't allowed to label it. He says they mix domestic beef, foreign beef for ground beef purposes. And then, so you couldn't. What do? It's a hybrid? I don't think that works. Fox News Super Talk News is next, and then Senator Mike McClendon. Stay with us.
Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by the Mississippi Business Journal. Visit msbusinessjournal.com. Scott Coopwood, publisher and president.
And now, another hour of the talk that keeps Mississippi talking. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Begin your transition now.
Now on Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's hour 2 of Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. We appreciate you joining us. It's a Monday. That means a short show. It's Ricky Matthews of Super Talk Outdoors at 12:05 today. Right now, it's State Senator Michael McClendon. He represents District 1. That's DeSoto County, serves as the chair of Labor and vice chair of Highways and Transportations. Senator, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Gerard. It's a pleasure.
You bet. So, give us a brief update from your district before we dig into kind of the more meaty subject. The speakers, several weeks ago, he commissioned 6 committees to go study some important issues in the state of Mississippi. I know that lots of those folks have been convening and meeting over on the House side, talking about some of the issues that Mississippians are concerned about. What about the Senate side? What have you guys been doing?
Well, we've started a redistricting caravan, apparently, and we've also been talking a little Education down there. Let me add one thing. When you said District 1, DeSoto County, I'm proud to have 4 precincts in Tate County in the western portion of Tate County. And that happened during the last redistricting that we did. So, and that's one of the hot topics in the state, and it has been this summer.
Yeah.
But the Senate is in full blast, ready to listen to constituents across the state about redistricting. As a matter of fact, they'll be in DeSoto County this coming Thursday, 6 o'clock, Northwest Ranger Center in South Haven.
I believe that'll be the second of the tour that the Senate is conducting right across the state, where they're inviting the public to come to these events and share their thoughts and concerns to senators conducting these listening sessions concerning redistricting.
That's my understanding, yes. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of things for them to listen to when they get up to South Haven.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the the committee, which was formed by Lieutenant Governor Hoseman, is everybody well aware that's his duties, part of his duties. And unfortunately, DeSoto County, the closest person on that committee is 140 miles from us. And we kind of feel like we got left, out on the table. When redistricting comes around, it's called self-preservation. And most everyone on that committee, you want to have an open mind. And look, everybody in that Senate's here to do one thing, make Mississippi a better place.
Sure.
But when you also are very protective of where you live, just as I am, where I live, as Senator Blackwell, as we all are. But for a county, DeSoto County size, $1.25 billion now we send to the state each year. I'm going to say that again, $1.25 billion goes to the state from DeSoto County. And 140 miles is the closest person we could put on the redistricting committee. We kind of feel like we got not quite a seat at the table. But yes, there will be people plenty to say come Thursday night, I'm sure.
Gotcha.
On both sides, Republican and Democrat.
Yeah.
And not just our Senate seats or representative seats, also congressional, also judicial. And there's going to be some questions asked. We just went through this lawsuit in DeSoto County with legislature had the bright idea to elect two judges from one neighborhood that's going to preside over the entire county. And to say it'll be interesting is an understatement.
Yeah. No doubt about it. Now, you expressed some concerns, certainly did on social media, that over this appointment of a Muslim judge in Benoit, Mississippi, to serve on the bench as a municipal judge. Benoit, of course, in Bolivar County, a city of 360 people. You've expressed some concerns about that, and you are proposing a measure that I suspect you would introduce in the 2027 session entitled Don't Sharia Mississippi Act. Tell us about that.
Yes. Vicki and I just went on a trip of a lifetime, and I'm going to start there. Started in New York City, and we went to 10 countries on a cruise. Bucket list thing for us in our life. And I talk to people in each one of these countries, and it's amazing how many things, as different as we are all over the world, how similar our issues are. And every single country, except for, I didn't find anybody in Amsterdam, the Netherlands, but Ireland, Iceland, Norway, Nova Scotia, all these different countries had issues of their concern is immigration. And the way that their culture and life is changing. And I said, well, now we have our border, in North America that we are concerned with. And they said, oh, we have boats that we're concerned with. We have, and it's a huge, with the displacement, with the war, the West Bank and Israel, and there's a huge Muslim migration. And every single country was concerned with that, about a different cultural shift, in particular Sharia law. And I just wonder how many folks in Benoit are Muslim. I wonder that.
Okay. So is it your contention then, Senator, that a Muslim cannot effectively serve as a judge, a municipal judge, just because the population in the constituency there where she would be, the district where she would be a judge, is not Muslim. I mean, so there's probably not many Jews, I would submit, in Benoit as well. Would you be okay with, say, a Jewish judge?
Well, I'm going to give you this example. And when we did redistricting, and the Senate wanted to pair Hernando, Mississippi with Clarksville, when we were going through the Senate redistricting. And my biggest argument of not doing that was the difference in the culture, the difference in the needs of the people, the difference in what their way of life and the difference in Hernando, Mississippi. If you don't think there's a difference in Clarksville and Hernando, you got no thinking. The funny thing about that is a federal judge agreed with me and said, yes, Hernando has different, is in a total different bubble or need or community than Clarksville. They have different infrastructure needs. They also have different beliefs. It's a different way of life. Even though we're in Mississippi, it's different. And anybody that's been to Clarksville will tell you it's different than it is in Hernando. So a federal judge agreed with me. So would they agree with this appointment? I don't know.
So are there laws are there some laws currently that say would prohibit this lady from serving on the bench as a municipal judge because she is Muslim and because the community that she would be a judge within does not have a big Muslim population? Do we have laws that would prohibit that now, and would you propose such laws?
I don't believe so. We do have laws. The concern I have with the Muslim faith is the wars that we've been in have been against countries that have the Muslim faith. They are Sharia law. They treat their females on a totally lower tier than what males do. If the door is open, I don't know.
Okay, we got a break right here, Senator. We got a break right here. If you can hang with us, we'll keep talking on the other side.
Sure.
All right, we got Senator Michael McClendon on the line. Stay with us.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Let's do this.
On Super Talk, Mississippi.
Let's go.
We're back. Thank you for joining us today. We got Senator Mike McClendon from DeSoto and Tate counties. He corrected us on that. Appreciate that, Senator, on the line. So, all right, Senator. So you're concerned about this Muslim individual that now apparently is going to serve as a municipal judge. You do know, I'm sure, that she is actually a natural-born American citizen. And about 42 to 45% of the Muslims or the folks that identify as Muslim in this country are natural-born American citizens. There's a large component that are naturalized citizens. I'm sure you're aware that with respect to a natural-born citizen, their citizenship cannot be revoked and you cannot deport them. A naturalized citizen, you can. Would you support a measure in Mississippi to go identify all those who are naturalized and push to revoke their citizenship and then deport them from the state and the country?
If anyone's here legally and did it the correct way, absolutely not. And it's not so much being against Muslims, it's being against the Sharia law.
Okay. But these are Muslims that they say they adhere to Sharia law. Would that be a problem?
That's a problem.
Okay. All right, so I think maybe we got a bad connection here with the senator, probably in a low signal area, perhaps on his side, Rhino, that we just don't know. So maybe he'll call back and we can continue. But that it is an interesting dynamic in that 42, 45%, depending on whose data you pick. And I researched several sources that are legitimate sources with respect to the number. Okay, Mike, you back, Senator?
Yeah, I'm driving on the Autobahn of Mississippi, I-55 South. So, and the beautiful thing about I-55 is it's so much traffic going north and south, and it's vehicles that you don't see, 18-wheelers with stuff on the back of it that you've never seen. Coming to and from, which is growth, and that's a great thing for Mississippi.
Right.
But what I do want to say about with the Mississippi Muslim Association, would they say we do not adhere to Sharia law, and we would prohibit Sharia law in Mississippi? I think that would be an outstanding thing. That's something they would do. But if you look back, all of the issues of wars that we have, it is people that have used this faith to an extreme, and that's really the concerning thing. And I've had numerous emails, texts, calls, and saying thank you from people. Saying thank you for speaking up because it's a concern to me also.
Well, are there not many of the tenets of Sharia law that are against the law already? I guess the question is, do you feel like we need more laws to kind of confirm existing law?
I just want to make sure that if there's a law that we have in place, it is does the job it's supposed to do. If we need some kind of tighter protection from this kind of action, then we should do it. People in America have the freedom of being atheist, Baptist, Presbyterian, Catholic, Muslim, whatever they want to do, just don't harm us, someone else.
Yeah.
But the Sharia law aspect is the part that muddies the water. And literally, people have concerns that are afraid of.
I'm just trying to understand how a religious law, which is essentially what Sharia is, an ideology, how in the world, if that conflicts with federal and state and local other laws, how that could be allowed, how that wouldn't be seen as in conflict. I mean, if it violates our laws, it violates our laws, and we should handle it accordingly. If we don't, it gives me concern that all of our laws are not worth the paper they're written on because we need more laws to confirm existing laws.
We have separation of church and state. So,
right. Well, I mean, which is that's law of the land today, and so I know there have been some reports, and I got to tell you, I'm not intimately familiar with the tenets of Sharia law, but apparently, like, pedophilia is allowed and is legal. Well, that's not legal under domestic law. So if someone's doing that and claiming they're innocent, or whatever it is, that whatever act they commit, they say they're innocent because it's allowed under Sharia law, but we don't observe Sharia law in this country presently. And so that's a problem if our courts are ruling like in accordance with law that's not domestic.
Well, I think you can be in a court in Minnesota and get a different ruling than if you were in a court in Mississippi.
Okay.
By certain judges.
Well, then it seems like somebody would sue and we'd get – I mean, the Supreme Court's ruled multiple times on this, and other courts have as well, just declaring that, no, domestic law is supreme to all other law. So I'm just concerned that if we start going down this path where we got to pass more laws to make sure the laws we got are good and observed and are solid, man, that just calls into question lots of other concerns that our laws are of no value.
Well, thank you for bringing the Supreme Court up, because they just ruled with the Police Act about you can't have race-based elections. But yet, we're going to have one in DeSoto County come November.
Yeah.
Because we didn't redistrict. So, you tell me.
Well, one of the things I know that you have suggested in your Don't Sharia Mississippi Act is just to make sure that our courts don't apply Sharia law when it conflict. I just can't imagine they'd ever apply Sharia law. Is that happening today? Do we have courts in Mississippi that are like utilizing and applying Sharia law and not Mississippi law, federal law, local law?
I don't profess to be a lawyer, and I don't claim to be a lawyer. As a matter of fact, I got my opinion on lawyers, and as many people do, and a love-hate relationship, because we got to have it. And I thank my cohorts that are lawyers. But common sense needs to prevail, and we are a people of God. This country was founded in God we trust. We have in God we trust on our state seal. I guess, some people have a different opinion on who God is. I know my God, I'm going to see folks that I'll be looking forward to seeing when I'm not on this earth again. Not that I want to see them tomorrow, but I sure do will be looking forward to seeing them when I do. And that's through Jesus Christ. And
would you support rounding up all of the naturalized citizens that have, say, in the state of Mississippi, that maybe have expressed support for jihad and some of the other tenets of Sharia law? It's sedition, essentially, that they're calling for the destruction, because there are some out there calling for that. Do you think we should use Mississippi law enforcement and the court system to work with the federal government to denaturalize those citizens and then deport them?
Would you have stopped 9/11 if you could have stopped it?
Well, sure. So, is that a yes or a no? I mean, that was a pretty obvious question. So, and then before we go here, we've got about a minute. You want to ban, essentially establish a dress code in our courts across the state of Mississippi, and ban head and face coverings, baseball caps, hats, bandanas, hijabs, burqas, masks, etc. That would be for judges, court workers, attorneys, witnesses, anybody that's those involved in the participants in the lawsuit. That's something else you want to do as well, right?
When was the last time you were in a courtroom?
Thank God, Senator, it's been a while.
And keep it that way. But if you go into a courtroom and you have a baseball cap on, they're going to tell you you're going to take it off.
Yeah, get it.
If you have a bandana on, they're going to tell you to take it off.
I understand.
As a matter of fact, they're going to tell you.
Middays with Gerard Gibert. It is on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Well, now me and Homer Jones and Big John Talley had a big crap game going back in the alley. And I kept rolling them 7.
We're back with you in the Element Wealth studio. So Robin the Delta says, if the judge was to rule in a case based on Sharia versus domestic statute, has she stayed? I'm not sure what he means by that. Could someone not file a lawsuit or seek to have the judge impeached from the bench for not following the U.S. Constitution and Mississippi state law? I actually went down a rabbit hole in that, Rhino, to try to understand what our laws say about someone who sits on the bench. And essentially, you're violating your oath, what you're doing, and what action could be taken. Now, same would apply to anyone in elected office, right, that takes an oath. If you violate that oath, well, then you engaged in some sort of wrongdoing that seems like would be grounds for your removal or dismissal. So it's a bit complicated. I'm not even sure that a lawsuit would be necessary, although I could see one originating with being filed by the Attorney General, perhaps, who's responsible, or even a federal Justice Department, the Department of Justice, because they're responsible for defending the respective level of law. It could be, of course, a citizen. You can file a lawsuit as well if you're a party in the lawsuit and you've got some sort of standing. Well, sure. So my position is that whomever is engaged in our legal system, whether you're a lawyer or a judge, yeah, you got to abide by our domestic laws. And if you don't, well, then there should be consequences for that. It's simple as that. I'm not sure what the impeachment or removal process is. I can't remember the last time a judge got removed.
You have to file a complaint with it's MCOJP. It's short for Mississippi Commission on Judicial Performance.
Okay.
You file with them a complaint, and they do an investigation, and then based on their investigation, they can recommend disciplinary action. I think they can recommend retirement, but they don't have any authority to remove anyone. If the conduct is egregious, then they present their findings to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has the power to remove a judge.
That makes sense. So the highest body of judges, essentially, that being the state Supreme Court, would have the authority to remove. Now, somebody's got to get a case before them, right? They can't go sue. The Supreme Court doesn't have lawsuit power. Their responsibility is to rule when lawsuits, right? Or can they sue?
I'm trying to remember because I remember reading this years ago. They would send the evidence to the legislature. The legislature would hold impeachment hearings, and then it would go to the Supreme Court for enacting.
You just triggered my memory. That's exactly what I saw as well. They would say, yeah, we think we got a problem here. Boom, they pass it on to the legislature. That's right. Because the elected people in the legislature have the power to impeach, essentially. So that's exactly right. So have you ever heard that happen in Mississippi? Has the legislature ever had impeachment hearings to remove or impeach a judge? That's just bizarre, honestly. So that would happen. Now, for what it's worth, this particular court, this municipal court in Benoit, such a small town, as you can imagine, not a lot of cases that need to be litigated in a municipal court in a small town. And best I could tell, Rhino, they meet maybe once a month. And there are probably a half a dozen cases, maybe. I can't imagine there's even that many in such a small town like this. So it's not like a full-time, you're convening court every single day, not at the municipal court level in a very small community like that. So for what that's worth.
Looks like the last time it happened in the Magnolia State was 1876.
Oh, my gosh, okay.
Where the governor, the lieutenant governor, and the state superintendent of education were all going to be impeached. The governor resigned, and they had impeachment proceedings that dropped. The lieutenant governor, that was Governor Albert Ames, Lieutenant Governor Alexander Kelso Davis was found guilty and removed. And State Superintendent of Education Thomas Cardozo resigned, and the impeachment proceedings were dismissed.
What was the basis of the suit? Does it say? That's crazy.
I'd have to go way down this rabbit hole.
Man, I didn't even know that. But it's 150 years ago. That's probably why I didn't know. That's incredible.
Yeah, when the information I'm reading from begins with ignorant barbarians, apt pupils in the practice of corruption, dregs of the constituencies. It's going to be a long read. I don't know if I'll be able to find
That's fine. Somebody said separation of church and state as long as she follows that. Well, look, and I agree. But that should apply to all legal settings. It doesn't matter what the religion is. In my view, it should be in accordance with the law.
I would also point out, can anybody point anywhere in the Constitution or the Bill of Rights where it says separation of church and state?
No, that's right. You're right, and that's been argued many times. It basically says...
that was in a letter from Thomas Jefferson to the Danbury Baptists to protect them from the government, not the government from them.
And correct. What it says, right, and I think I'm going to recite this correctly, is that the government cannot promote one religion over another. That's different than the concept of separation of church and state. We have to agree that there's no doubt the founding of our country, our Constitution, our founders, our laws, they're based on Christian values. Yeah, that's right. So, and many would say Judeo-Christian values, which are very closely aligned. There are some nuances here and there.
Nobody said that till the 60s.
That came up in the 60s, about 60, 70 years ago. That's absolutely right. And that's because most of that occurred post the founders, the immigration of Jewish people into our country. Mostly
a lot of people have a hard time getting historical timelines lined up correctly in their brain, but the founding of this nation, there was no Israel.
That's exactly right. And I don't think any of our founders hailed from like any Jewish sort of pro-Jewish or mainly Jewish-dominated nations. No doubt. They were Christian men, and they were driven by biblical principles. Shouldn't all law be that way? I mean, even if you're a non-Christian, how could you look at the Bible and say, oh, that's bad? I mean, if you think of what the principles the Bible espouses, which are just basic human
good.
good.
Way people think being on time and allowing for delayed gratification are bad. They're
that's
just stupid.
True. Yeah, that's exactly right. So, oh boy. KC says, frog in a boiling pot, slippery slope. So I just point out again, though, that you've got people who are American citizens, and you corrected me when I said the words wrong a couple of weeks ago, natural born versus naturalized. Natural born, I think it's worth pointing out again, means you were born here, you're a citizen. Now, there are arguments, the president certainly made those, that we should end birthright citizenship because the natural born has been abused, and that's a problem. Naturalized simply means you came into this country as a citizen of another, and you went through the process to become a citizen, but you weren't born here. Thus, you were naturalized, and I believe the only public office you cannot hold is that of the president if you are not natural born. That's been ancient constitutional law.
Why Schwarzenegger never ran for president.
That's exactly right, but was governor. Was permitted to be the governor. It's a good point. Naturalized citizen of this country. So we do have laws that say if you're a naturalized citizen and you're engaged in sedition, you're affiliated with terrorist groups. Now, I don't have a problem with trying to beef up state law to better define terrorist groups and also find that people who are either a member of those groups, supporting those groups, they got a problem in our state. They have one in our country, but maybe we could beef up state law so that state law enforcement could get more involved. But by the way, there's about 3,000 Muslims. It's 1% of our population in the state. And it's just like Senator said. He said the Muslim Association, he's talked to them, they don't support or adhere to Sharia law. And then you get into
I think he was saying it would be nice if they would put out a statement that says that.
And I would agree with him on that. I've said for a long time that one of the problems is that the so-called good and peaceful, nonviolent Muslims won't denounce and repudiate those who express their desire for violence. And if you're a naturalized citizen and you're calling for jihad or the destruction of the country, certainly the killing of the infidels, and you're a naturalized citizen, I believe we should find them, denaturalize them, and send them the hell out of the country. Can't do that to a natural-born citizen. But sedition, however, Rhino, as you know, is against the law even for a natural-born citizen. It's just a very, very high bar to prove it. Coming right back with the final segment on this Monday. Stay with us.
Poly up of Mississippi.
Are we going to do this?
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Keep rolling. 3, 2, 1.
On Super Talk, Mississippi.
A man walks down the street, he says, why am I soft in the middle now? Why am I soft in the middle? The rest of my life is so hard. I need a photo opportunity. I want a shot of redemption. Don't want to end up a cartoon in a cartoon graveyard.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Well studio. So it's a complicated issue. Somebody said, let's see if I can find it. Yeah, against the grain on the C Spire text line, would following Sharia law be considered treason against the Constitution of the United States? Therefore, they lose their naturalized citizenship. Well, as Rhino was kind enough to research for us when we were talking about that a couple of weeks ago, treason is a punishable offense. It's extremely difficult to prove, but you can't deport an American citizen that may be engaged in treason. Now, I think perhaps that hasn't always been the case, that there were. Is that right? Isn't that what you told us, that there was? Now, we're talking about a long time ago where we had some folks.
I think under the Articles of the Confederation, it was still a possibility.
Okay, I got you. So, but yeah,
because you still had a lot of citizens that became citizens with the founding of the country who were born elsewhere.
But the question was naturalized citizenship. Yeah, there are lots of ways, lots of offenses that are cause for someone to be denaturalized. The main one that we talked about is if you lied to obtain your citizenship. And
the majority of the ones in recent history have been due to defrauding the federal government in the naturalization process by hiding either financial connections or personal connections to groups or activities that were not allowed.
But I got to point out, we don't invoke that very often. In fact,
no, it's really rare.
150, according to my research, cases to denaturalize a citizen last year. We have millions of naturalized citizens.
And 150 is up from 30 the year
20.
Before.
Yeah, exactly. 20. Yeah, so it's not like that every day we're running around trying to find naturalized citizens. The other thing that shocked me was...
most of the cases involve someone close to the case turning them in.
Exactly right. But I found that same thing in my research. But that one grounds is if you're affiliated with and supporting communism, right? I was shocked to find that. That's explicitly stated in the law. And I thought, well, hell, if you could do that for a natural-born citizen, half the Democrats could be deported. I know, it's hyperbole, but, man, there's a bunch of them leaning into it, right? I just found that interesting that, wow, communism, incredible. And yet we're talking about it like it's something we should do here in this country that could, by many, not me, and those of us with a clear set of brains and eyes.
It's because in the long before times, before you and I were born, when Congress actually did their job, they passed laws.
It's true.
that impacted large swaths of society instead of just regurgitating the same nonsense and adding on to it and doing that over and over and over again to the benefit of the bottom 25% of the population at the detriment of everybody else.
I got you. Well, I just was surprised to find that is grounds to pursue denaturalization. But again, the most obvious and the most abused situation is you lie. Of course, you know as well as I do, that's exactly how we end up with asylees, parolees, and refugees. They freaking lie, but they don't leave. Well, I'm here because the government of my country is persecuting me, and I literally fear for my life. And they come
Pay no
here.
attention to the plane tickets. I'm visiting Grandma in a couple of weeks.
Exactly. That's what's caused a massive amount of immigrants to come into this country and obtain legal status. Legal status. Joe Biden handed it out like candy. Actually, you know what they do? How does it work? They give you a pass. Yeah, your court date's 5 years from now. So help yourself, right? That's exactly what's been going on. The president did stop that, perhaps his greatest achievement. We don't see that every day. But we still are only pursuing denaturalization of citizens. Last year, 150. That's nothing. There are millions and millions. And I support the idea that if you're a naturalized citizen and you're a Muslim and you are espousing and promoting the Muslim goal of jihad, yeah, you need to be denaturalized. That's sedition. Because there are some that are doing this. The problem is, is that, well, they said it, but nobody's acting. And that just makes it hard to prove it in court so that we could get them the heck out of the country.
You got to get them to court. You got people protesting the arrests of sex offenders.
That's true. So, but there's things that are accepted, such as stoning. We have laws against cruel and unusual punishment. You can't stone somebody.
Judicial punishment.
That's exactly right. So we have laws against that. And that's a tenet, as you know, that's allowable under Sharia law for certain offenses. Yeah, you can just go stone them to death, for example. We are out of here today. Coming up your way next is Ricky Matthews with Super Talk Outdoors. Back with you tomorrow. Stay safe and God bless everyone.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.